Hello and welcome to the Writer's Journey. Today we have a very special guest. Chuck Manley is filling in for Lauren Moore. She double booked weddings today, so I am very grateful that he came on to talk with me today on our extra very special guest, one Jon Del Arroz, to discuss Kickstarters and comic books and all those big book sales, everything that we all want in our life. And
bye, Chuck.
Chuck just left. Why, Chuck? Why? He's like, nope, I'm done.
Chuck's like, I'm out.
There he goes.
I don't know what happened right there. Don't ask me. The gods of the internet were angry with me for something.
That's okay. I know how that feels. And hello, Monster Class! Golf clap appreciation. And Drake Tungsten. Peretz012. I don't know any of these people. Obviously, they're here for you, Jon.
What's up, Perret and Drake? How you doing, my friends? Good to see you guys. Monster Class? I don't recognize Monster Class, but I like you anyway, Monster Class.
There you go. All right. So what has everyone been up to this week? Because apparently that's what we do here on the show. We discuss bits of ourselves. Apparently the audience loves that. Chuck or Jon, one of you. Go.
I will go first. Let's see. I'm just doing my usual thing, working on the third book in the Jack Dark series for Athon. They're sitting on the first two until I get done. And aside from that, I'm just making little notes here and there for future projects and chasing my kids around, trying to keep them from, ending the world as we know it.
Destroying the world.
Yes, that's about it. That's the story of my life. What about you, Jon?
I'm just live streaming instead of focusing on books. It's fantastic. So, yes.
Can't get any better than that. It's work without working.
It's work without... Exactly. I could just say hi to people like Einbrecht in the chat, and then I'm happy. And then I could pretend like it's work. It's even better. I did get like $100 in super chats last night, though. It was great.
I actually know what that means. Congratulations. I'm actually surprised.
I know
internet stuff. It's like
what have you been up to, Kalene?
People can send you money and to support your channel, and then they get shout outs and special accolades.
Gotcha.
You guys don't have that turned on. What's going on?
You're gonna have to talk to Josh about that. I don't know. I come here and talk stuff and push buttons that I know to push, so I don't break the internet, because I've done that before. I have accidentally, through my Dropbox, deleted somebody else's entire file of a book that I should not have been able to delete because it was through their Dropbox and I was on mine. So I don't know. I can break the internet, so we just don't want that to happen. I've been editing, doing lots of edits for Athon. Rhett keeps me super busy. And a lot of my little author babies finally have books coming out. There's Chrysalis is coming out. Which is another one. The Hedge Wizard, he's coming out. That one's super fun. The Randedly Ghost Town, he's doing fantastic. He's killing it. Yeah, lots of others. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. Edits and trying to get wee bits of sleep.
Wow. I hate editing more than anything. If I could find a way to write a first draft and then just hand it to somebody else and know that it was just going to be perfect the way I wanted it, that I'd never even have to touch it again, that would be my ideal dream. I would do that career. I'd even quit YouTube and all that other stuff just so I can sit there and write first drafts and not have to worry about it. That's just like I have a dream moment right there. It's beautiful.
You gotta pump out more books, man.
The problem is editors always give you back notes, and then they try to make you fix things.
Well, it's a lot of editors. I wouldn't, because for me, I'm gonna call bullshit on that one, because there is a very, very blue moon moment where I'm like, I really think something needs to be added here that I don't also include. Here's what I mean, and literally write an example of what I mean. I've even written a whole paragraph. It really needs to be a paragraph in here detailing X thing, and I will write a paragraph. I'm like, you're free to use it if you like it, but that's what I'm talking about. Because I don't want them trailing off into the Netherlands of the grasslands and just a very tight thing. This is all you need. something in here. So no, I give examples. I don't just like make the character more excited and not show you how.
Well, I don't want to know how. I just want it to be done. So that's the problem. See what I mean?
Yeah, like most
Mm-hmm.
people, they love having written, but the writing part is kind of.
No, I love the writing part. I just don't like the editing part. That's the worst.
The rewriting part.
Yes, it's disaster.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
I have ADD. I just want to be like on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, you just put out, I can't remember how long ago, another Kickstarter for one of your many comic books that you have trolling about. How is that going?
This is my, it's already my third most successful of all time, like even with the completed ones. But it's the most successful launch I've had of all time. So things are growing, things are crushing it. And it's because of like a few ways that we're doing things lately that I think are just like a kind of a modern era best practices. I think a lot of this stuff that we all learned, and I assume, Chuck, you kind of came up in the crowd, I'm going to guess, like in 2014, 15, 16, like on indie Amazon stuff as well.
That I joined KDP in 2014, but I mean, before that, I was doing the traditional query letter rejection tango since like the late 80s, early 90s. So
I'm sorry.
I've kind of gone through the whole gambit of that stuff. I've never tried Kickstarter though. I don't know how that works really.
There was a while there where it was kind of like a new golden age for independent publishing, and Amazon had
the tail end of that. I came in right on the tail end of that.
Amazon had these algorithms, the also bots we used to talk about all the time, if you remember that. And it was beautiful. You could get all that going. Like you could just hit this algorithmic thing. And I had a couple of them that just like went skyrocket. And it was just like, wow, how did this happen? And it was all because of those beautiful algorithms. And there was really no surefire way to like get it, but we had a lot of ideas of how to kind of manipulate it, I guess. Yeah. And then Amazon just nuked it all from orbit. And they said, you know what? We're going to do away with that. And we're just going to put advertised product that people pay to put that slot there instead. And then for a while, because nobody knew how to use it, you could cheaply do advertising and kind of mimic that goal from before. Right. But then everybody and their mother got in on that too, and now Amazon,
the deep pockets of the bigger
big publishing.
Houses. Yeah.
Now it's gone. So Amazon is just kind of a nightmare compared to what it used to be. They ruined their own platform, in my opinion. My latest series, I just got back, the Nano Templar series, which is one of my best sellers. I had that at a publisher before, and I just got it back myself. I'm actually not putting it in KDP this time. And this is the first time I'm doing that. And I'm doing that because I want to be able to explore other platforms and things like that.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that myself lately.
The game's changing. Yeah. Now, there's a couple other things that used to work that aren't working anymore. Facebook used to be a nice platform where you could reach out and see. I could see what Kalene's doing and be like, "Wow, Kalene seems to have a nice time today," and then fun stuff like that. And now Facebook doesn't show me Kalene's posts unless like I happen to like something she did like in the last 3 days. It just doesn't even come up on my feed because they're manipulating that so much. You used to be able to have Facebook groups. And again, like those groups just get deprioritized on your feed. So a lot of people who are in those groups don't even see those anymore. So
Facebook's so hard to find my own groups that I'm part of.
Isn't that crazy? So Facebook was this like beautiful social network where we all could see each other and what we were doing, promote each other, etc. And that's kind of gone now too. Like, I've got 3,200 friends on Facebook or something stupid. And yet, like, my posts get seen by less than 100 people. And that's not even the likes and all that. That's just how it gets seen. That's crazy. Twitter now was another one that was like that before. You had a beautiful thing. I used to have, I have about 6,000 followers on there. And again, the amount of engagement, because Twitter's now got a feature which is like suggested tweets or something, which you have to actively turn off in order to just see the tweets that come up on the feed. And it's not easy to like do so. I'm going to show you guys how to do so because People might not know this. So you've got your feed. I'll pull up my screen just to kind of show you guys. And it's very unclear. So I've got latest tweets up here up top, you see. So normally the default version is top tweets first right here. And that is go back home. It's please let us tell you what you want to see, which is advertisements and things like that.
Right.
So they don't even tell you it's in the corner here. It's not in your settings. It's just this little star thing in the top to change that you would have no idea what that meant otherwise. So
right.
unless you
the star of hope.
the star of hope. Yes.
The light at the end of the tunnel.
Unbelievable. So unless you have actively gone and hit that button, and by the way, periodically, if you just don't check it for several months, Twitter will shift it back for you.
You're like, no,
so
you didn't mean to hit this.
No, you did. Yeah, exactly. So it manipulates what you see, so you can't see things anymore. So it's the same thing Facebook did originally, which it downplays outside links. It downplays what it thinks are promotional posts. So it just utterly destroys the platform for any usefulness like it used to have. I used to have trackers on all this stuff. Twitter used to make me, and on a campaign like this, like where I've got about $15,000 so far. I guess I'm closer to 17 now. But it'd be about $2,500 just directly from those tweets that I was doing. And on Facebook, it would be about $1,500 directly from those Facebook posts I was doing. That's all evaporated. Even though I have like a bigger following than I used to, the impact of everything that's done on those is less. And so they are less useful platforms than they've ever been before. Now, the only useful thing I'm finding, the only thing that's working, and by the way, there's all these alternative platforms. The problem with those is nobody uses them and nobody checks them, so I don't even bother.
No traffic
So,
there.
But that's an interesting thing. So like, especially with Kickstarter, I mean, you've got to promote it somehow. And
yes,
the big places is Twitter and Facebook and things like that. And you're saying this is like one of your top 3, if not the best one. What have you done differently outside of these areas that are making it harder for you to be successful?
Yes. Well, one, I've got a mailing list of like 6,000 people. So
darn list.
Yeah. Get yourself a mailing list of 6,000 people, my friends.
I've been fighting.
Do you on that mailing list? Do you send out like newsletters or anything like that?
What I do now is my YouTube's been escalating like a rocket, also, and so I 6,000 seems to be my number. I've got 6,000 on my mailing list, 6,000 on Twitter, and 6,000 on YouTube.
Is it the same 6,000?
No, that's the brilliant part.
I wouldn't think so.
Nice.
I'm never on Twitter, so I wouldn't be.
Yeah, I gave up on Twitter.
People don't really cross platforms. It's very interesting. So that's the truth right there. And it's very, like, the newsletter is great because it is direct. Now, the problem with newsletters now is almost, like, there's a problem with newsletters also, which is they're not as good as they used to be for the same reason. The things like Gmail and Yahoo and all that are very good at labeling your newsletter spam or social promotions.
Right.
And so they don't get seen as a percentage as they used to be. It just means you need to get more people on the list in order to get seen like you used to be. But that's still very handy. From my tracking so far, my newsletters have actually done about $3,000 to $4,000 worth of the campaign directly. So that's a good thing. And next is YouTube. And YouTube has, again, the same algorithm problem that all the others used to have. It's manipulating what you see. They don't show you what you subscribe to anymore. So if you subscribe to Keystroke Media, which you should do, just click that down below and hit that bell. You should.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, no problem.
I do not say that enough.
He's a pro. He's a pro.
He is a pro. I need to take notes.
Yeah, please do, everybody. Support our friends here. And it used to just show you what you subscribed to several years ago, which is great. That's kind of what you want. Now it shows you, again, like all the other platforms, what it thinks you should see.
Right.
And so your subscriptions don't come up on YouTube just like the tweets you subscribe to don't come up, just like your Facebook friends don't come up. It's got the same issue with it. Now, where YouTube's different than everything else is YouTube really wants you to keep watching YouTube videos. And so they'll promote random videos to people. And so what I found with this, and my YouTube was at about the size of Keystroke Medium about, I'd say 2 years ago. So it's been about 2 years, and I was at 1,000, almost exactly. But what I found is you make videos, you try to pick up on the YouTube algorithm, and then the YouTube algorithm will actually send you out to a lot of people who don't actually subscribe to your channel, and you'll find a lot more new people. And so that's where a lot of people are now hearing about my book. They're finding it. I do a 5-minute video, and I give a quick intro, and then I switch over to my Kickstarter page. I give a quick pitch, and then I get back into the video topic. And I say that link's down below. Go click on it. Go support us, right? And that's what works every time. Next is live streaming. Works very well because it's, a lot of my people from my audience are in here, but there's a lot of people who watch Keystroke Medium who don't know who I am too. So Kalene comes on my show. Chuck comes on my show. We all go around. We all have different circles to some extent. Even if we're very close to the same circles, there's some people who are different. Doing that really ingratiates you to people because they really get to know you over the course of like an hour here. Like they can sense like, oh, I kind of know this person. I like them, or they hate me, whatever it is. But
no, we all love you.
That's how it works. And so YouTube's been like a huge help. Yes.
So what are your videos and things? Because I've often thought about how to use YouTube as a writer because it seems like a lot of times as writers, we do things and we just end up talking to more writers.
Yes.
It's sort of this cyclical thing where we're just talking to the same people over and over again. What kind of stuff are you doing to draw attention on YouTube?
Okay, so it's the same thing like blogs back in the day. Everybody used to be all about the blog, if you remember. And they're like, oh yeah, blog and you'll get hits. Now, of course, like the way the internet works, you do a blog and it's just going to yourself and nobody sees it.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. Yeah, they were fun. I like doing it, but I just don't. Well, I don't know. I work for a comic news outlet called Bounding Into Comics, and they pay me to write essentially blogs, so it kind of works out.
There you go.
That's even better. But like the common mistake writers always made is like you have to find like a niche where people will want to come to your website to hear about whatever it is. And so writers like for YouTube, and same thing. I see the same thing on YouTube. The mistakes people make are either they do a YouTube video or blog about writing, which honestly, I'll tell you this: nobody cares about your thoughts about writing. Anybody in the chat? I'm sorry about that. It's just my honest opinion.
Other writers, but people who are going to be interested in like reading, which they don't care how the soup gets made,
which was fine for a while. But again, like you've just got bigger writers doing that. So the ones that are going to make money off of that are Brandon Sanderson, right? So if Brandon Sanderson's telling somebody how to write, it's going to sell them books. But if I'm telling people how to write, it's not going to sell me books. So that's kind of the difference. So that's the thing. And then the other thing is like don't like write about and do YouTube about mundane things about your day. There's this one channel which I watch it just like for the train wreck, and I see it has no views, and it's a writer. I'm not going to name. I'm not going to be too mean, but the person makes videos and is just like, yeah. So it's Friday, June 10th. It's 9 a.m. I'm having my first cup of coffee for the day. Today I'm going to go shopping and probably go to and then maybe go to Starbucks, and it's just like it's so insufferable. Nobody wants to watch that. Nobody cares about your day. So
is that the YouTube version of people taking pictures of their food for Facebook posts?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Stop showing me your half-eaten breakfast.
But you got to come up with something interesting for a niche, and it just depends. I focus on like kind of culture war stuff, and I always tie that into because I tie that into like stuff like Star Wars or Marvel Comics or whatever, because again, that's science fiction and comics, so that's going to be the type of person who might read. But there's people out there making successful videos about, somebody's got like a Lord of the Rings based channel or a board game based channel. And, as long as you kind of stay close, I think tangentially to your, target audience, then that's it. Now figuring out what that is and using your own voice. It's hard. I've done.
So what I'm hearing is approach it more as a fanboy of whatever you fanboy over than someone producing fiction of whatever kind.
Yes.
And appeal to the fans on that level. as opposed to appealing to the fans of, hey, I've got this cool new thing you might like. I hear
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Oh, yeah. You like Star Wars? Well, you're really gonna love my new book,
You really
Overmind, on
like-
Kickstarter. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
That
an
makes
easy sell
sense.
at that point.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. So let me ask you this one: as a man of a certain age, I notice on you, and I watch a lot of YouTube because I just do. But I know it's very young. You know, I'm 55. I don't see a lot of
Yes.
guys my age doing videos. What are your thoughts on? I don't want to call it ageism, but just the age gap between the generation that kind of is doing YouTube and guys in my ballpark.
There's definitely like a big like Zoomer generation YouTube group, and that group, like, I mean, the main problem we have as writers again is that group literally does just watch TikTok and YouTube, and they don't read.
Right.
So I tend not to try to appeal to that age group. I try to tend to appeal to people like 30 to 60 or whatever it is, somewhere in there. And I think if you have a little more thoughtful commentary and all that, you'll appeal towards that demographic. They're there too. Everybody's on YouTube. So like you said, you're watching YouTube a lot.
Right.
So I think it's just the content type that matters. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
All right, and real quick, as we come up on the halfway mark, that I should have already had this lovely little Linksy Poo copied for you. All right, everyone out there, Jon Del Arroz's beautiful. Actually, I'm gonna share it. I wanted to share it. I am so on the ball right now with all the
You
things.
go,
It's
girl.
Thanks, Kalene.
fantastic. Let's see, share screen. I feel like Josh right now, talking through all the stuff, all my steps that I do.
Yeah, he doesn't like dead air, so he's always making noise.
Alrighty, here we have Jon Del Arroz's Kickstarter for Overmind, a science fiction thriller graphic novel. A renegade AI threatens the Terran Empire. Ayla Wren must stop Overmind before it's too late.
Yes.
Already encroaching on $17,000 for the with 247 backers. That is fantastic.
How quickly I saw it set of a $5,000 goal. How quick did it fund?
As I put that up top in under 2 hours.
Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Right there. Duh.
So there's a couple of things about Kickstarter, and of course, advertising copywriting's your friend. Get good at this, my friends. I see. It's so bad. Like, even on Kickstarter, I see a lot of projects. They don't give you that hook line up top. They really push. So, like, if you look at the title, Overmind. So Overmind sounds very cool in science fiction just by itself. But then I reinforce this is a science fiction thriller graphic novel, so you know exactly what you're getting in the title. And then the subtitle is, of course, just like an exciting statement, kind of about what you can expect. And the stakes, so that you have a nice little copywriting sort of thing right there. That's important. And then, of course, with Kickstarter, what's very interesting and the interesting thing, and I made a video about this a couple days ago. Another mistake people make is they set their goal too high. And what I mean by that is, like, you might think it's going to cost $20,000 to fund to cover the costs of your graphic novel or whatever. That's great. Getting to $20,000 is extremely hard. Where I'm at is already like the top 5% of comic book Kickstarters. So this is like most graphic novels and comics make like $500, $1,000, $3,000. Like, this is like an extreme outlier, and most get between 50 and 100 backers total. So if you set your goal at $20,000, for example, if I did that here. Well, one, Kickstarter doesn't give me any of the money if it doesn't fund, so I'd be nail biting right now trying to get to that. Number two, if people say I was at $5,000 day one or whatever, they see that I'm like 75% away from things, that I'm really not that close to $20,000. They'll click on it, go, it's probably not going to fund. I'll go back something else that like I know I'm going to get. So I would never set a goal super high. I put $5,000 completely arbitrarily because I know I will hit that day one every single time, just based on my past projects.
Okay, that makes sense.
Just put whatever you're willing to take a loss on. If you're going to produce this anyway, which I would assume you're going to if you're passionate about something, just don't worry about it. And for novels, again, so one thing I did do on this that's different than the others is I'm doing a full like prose novel along with a graphic novel. And I did that because I do have a prose novel audience, and I know that, and I have a graphic novel audience. I'm trying to get them both together, and so far it's working. So again, just focus on your target demographic. Number 2 is like just don't set that too high, especially with books. Now, a lot of my friends are doing just books. There's not a lot of overhead with books. You got to pay Kalene. There it is. Okay, it's backwards, right? You got to pay Kalene to edit things. You probably got to pay a cover artist also. It's gonna, it'll cost you $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is. But think about it like this: like if you weren't going on Kickstarter and you were putting it up on Amazon, you're gonna pay that anyway. So maybe just set it at $500. You can get to $500. That's $500 you wouldn't have anyway, and then you put it up on Amazon afterwards, and then you start from scratch there because those Amazon users, for the most part, aren't even on Kickstarter. It's a different user base. So you'll just get yourself ahead of the game on things like that as it is. There's no reason to set it too high. Again, like people like success. That's why I put that up top, funded in less than 2 hours, because people want to go, wow, people love this. It must be good. It's a very good psychological thing, and the more that other people like it, the more it validates to them that it's going to be a good product.
Yeah, that's funny.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Seen a YouTube video that came up, and it was an experiment. It was 2 separate pictures. And it was just like a picture of, the likes and dislikes and whatnot. And one of them had like 1 million likes and the other one had like 12. And all they did was ask the people, they showed them the 2 pictures, which one do you think do you like most? And most of the people would always go to the one that had the 1 million or so likes. And then so they went to a new group of people and then they switched it. Same exact picture, they just switched the likes, and they're like, which one do you like more? Well, now it's the old one, the one that only had the 12 before, that's getting all the way, I like that one, because of the validation that 1 million other
social
people
proof.
Like
and this is the same thing as Amazon. All the authors always go, hey, we need more reviews, right? Because if it looks like you've got a lot of reviews on your book, it looks like a lot of people have read your book. It's just, it's very similar sort of strategy right there.
Honestly, it's true. Like even when I'm going on Amazon and looking for something, that's one of the very first things that I look at. How many reviews has it had for the stars that it's gotten? And then I start to dig a little bit deeper, manufacturing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that is definitely the that first little boot in the door.
Yeah, people like jumping on a bandwagon, and if they think there's a lot of people, they'll do it. I think Leo just called it the Lemming Effect.
The Lemming, yeah. Well, I don't want to be mean to my customers,
No,
but it's
a bad idea.
Yeah, exactly. But it is just human nature. If you see a crowd interested in something, you kind of go, there might be something to this. Let me check it out.
See what's going on. I want to be part of the vibe.
Let's face it, for a book or a Kickstarter, they don't know if they're gonna like if the book's good quality until they read it. They are just checking. This is getting them to check it out, and that's why covers are so important. Everything just about marketing is just super important, and that's it. Now, I mentioned I had some mistakes I made on this one before the program.
Yes, we want to hear these.
I've made several career mistakes overall. So number 1 is I've switched back and forth between Indiegogo and Kickstarter several times. So there's 2 major crowdfunding platforms. There's a couple more kind of popping up there right now, but these are the ones where everybody's on. And so I've gone and I've sold some books on one, some books on another. People do not cross platforms. And this goes like Amazon. You can have 100,000 readers on Amazon. Doesn't mean you'll have any backers on Kickstarter. It's really nutty. It's frustrating too, because I've sold on Amazon. I've got a book that's sold like 30,000 copies. So it's done really well. Where are those? How do I tell those readers I've got this? It's a super frustrating thing. And the best part about Kickstarter is you get all their email addresses, by the way. So it's not, it's quite different than Amazon in that regard. But if you switch, they will not necessarily come over. And that's a tough thing. And I've switched back and forth multiple times, and all it does is just confuse the customer base. So just pick one and stick with it, is what I got to tell people. Yeah.
I mean, that's
Or
similar
do both.
to genre hopping, for us writers out there. You write a sci-fi and you're like, ooh, but I'm really getting kind of into fantasy right now, and you throw out a fantasy, and then you're like, oh, but I've always loved romance. You throw out a romance. Definitely confuses what could be a solid reader base before you start, exploring other
That's
avenues.
my other big mistake. So I started out with a superhero series, which is like kind of like a Batgirl, Supergirl kind of thing, and I ran that for 4 volumes. Then I switched to a different superhero, and even though it's the same genre technically, it's the same. There is an effect on this that like it's not the series that people were following, so it still doesn't do quite as well. Yep,
Yeah.
that matters to people. So honestly, it goes deeper than just genre. And I've done a fantasy graphic novel, and now I'm doing a science fiction graphic novel. So I've totally made that mistake too. It resets you from back to ground zero every time you do it. So stick with the same genre, and Chuck does it even better. Stick with the same series. Like I would not even deviate from another series. Especially for your first few. I would just stick with it because that's
people
what the
get
readers
attached
want.
to characters, man. They get attached to characters. They want to know what's going to happen next with that specific character. And I know guys who've got series with dozens of books in it who just hate the idea of writing another one of those books because
I know those same guys.
They got all these other things they want to do, but you got to go where the audience is, and they love that character. So yeah, if you get something that works, be prepared to do the marathon run with it for sure.
Stick with it, and to make that for you at the beginning, where it's something that's like not going to bore you, and that you won't get tired of. I recommend like making kind of a wide universe with a kind of a just interesting array where you can sit there and like this is Lois McMaster Bujold's one of my favorite authors. Yeah. And so she has her Miles Verkosigan series, and everybody, like every time I've been at a convention with her, somebody raises their hand. When's the next Verkosigan book? Right.
Right.
You're like, I just released one yesterday. Come on.
Yeah, I know. And you can tell she hates getting that question, but those get old after a while. But if you look at what she did with that series to keep it fresh, at least for her, for writing, and while the books stay consistently good over the course of it, is like the first one's like a swashbuckling space opera, and then their next few are kind of like that also. Then she kind of gets into like a murder mystery with one of them, or actually 2 of them are like that. So then she's writing mystery, but it's in space and it's with Miles Verkosigan. Then she gets into some like really artsy sci-fi stuff, which was beautiful, and that's kind of the best stuff of the series. And then she got into just writing romance with it. So Miles Verkosigan gets a girlfriend, and like that's the romance novel now. And then she did a romantic comedy, but with Miles Verkosigan. So all of those sold super well, even though she got to write different types of stories and express herself artistically. She had that within the series and with that character, and that's why it kept lasting, and that's why it kept crushing it. Very important to set it up so that you're not like in a narrow scope with the series, I think.
Yeah.
We all need to be the Barbie of writing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Because she has a million jobs, but she's always Barbie. So we need to be the Barbie of writing.
I wouldn't have got that, but now I get it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Sense. My daughter's still close enough to her young age. She had every Barbie movie there was. And,
oh boy.
Yeah, and loved the show. And
I didn't know they had a show.
Part of the show was her closet with all of her jobs, and it was like as big as a city. So anyway, that's off topic, but
so that's about it. That's all my advice, I guess.
Wow, you condensed that like a lot, or I just wasn't talking enough, and you were talking too fast.
Yeah, I was talking too fast. I do that. I make 5-minute videos on YouTube, so I'm just used to doing that.
He's used to being succinct. What about platforms we haven't talked about? Like, for instance, I know that Instagram is pretty much Facebook owned and all that stuff, but I mean, you think that's got any use for
I don't know. I haven't been very good at Instagram, so my Instagram. Well, I mentioned that all these other platforms have like 6,000 followers. I've got, how many do I have on Instagram? I've got 544. So I'm obviously terrible at that platform. So I don't know. I mean, I've seen people use Instagram to good success, especially if they're artists, because it's a visual platform. I think it's a little harder for a writer. I see a lot of people just putting up like those little like screen caption things that are like, I'm writing today, with like hearts on it or something. And it's
Right.
like, I don't think that's going to really get you a
I
following.
see a lot of those too. I follow a lot of
So-
writers on there. I'm
You're
always
just like,
curious how
good. That's
people are
what you
going to
should be
use it.
doing.
What about like
Yeah.
TikTok and Instagram Reels, those shorter kind of videos? You think
I haven't touched those. If you want to go after a Zoomer audience, like kids who are in high school these days,
that's where they are?
That's probably where they're at for the most part. Yep.
Yeah.
Attention spans are getting way worse by the day because of those things existing. So
Yeah, it's so weird. Like every single one of Willow or my daughter and her friends is, it's all about the YouTubers. They're like, "Who's your favorite YouTuber?" And they're asking her, "Isn't your mom a YouTuber?" And I'm just like, "What is this? Like, go get a favorite singer or like writer or something. Y'all are fanning over YouTubers," which I don't know. I guess that's a double-edged sword, me saying that, but it was just flabbergasting. I'm like, now I feel old. This is what the generation above me felt like.
it is. Yeah. And it's interesting because comics used to be kind of the ADD platform, right? Because if you don't want to read a book, you go get comics because there's less text. You can get through it faster. Now, and then it moved to YouTube videos. And then, so comics, you've seen both, right? Like books and comics kind of just do this big dip in terms of the amount of people buying them overall. And then now YouTube videos are subsiding to these little quick TikTok things that just, it's a quick flash with some music in the background. Like it's just like, that's it. And I haven't touched it. I haven't touched those yet, but maybe I'll have to. I mean, I'll move where the market is for sure.
Yeah.
But I get a small sneaking suspicion that if they're that ADD about things, they're probably not going to like buy books overall.
Right. That's kind of what I was thinking too, because like you said, the attention span just isn't there.
Yeah.
And, and overall, no matter what platform you're doing, no matter what type of art form you're doing, comic books, short stories, long form, you've got to do the work and find your audience. Like John was saying before, he's not targeting, teenagers and younger, he's going for that 30 plus mark, where people are going to think a little bit more. They're going to want to dig in. They're going to want to communicate and all of that. They have more thoughts than whatever random, I don't know, yeeting things going on.
What
as a
the latest pour something cold over yourself challenge is?
Yeah.
Like
unless you're a 10-year-old named Princess Leia. If you're a 10-year-old named Princess Leia, you're smarter than every adult out there.
You're right.
Wiser.
You're right.
You talk like you're 40, but you're just amazing in 10 because you're Princess Leia.
That young lady is doing an outstanding job there.
And really quick for Chuck, what are your books called?
What are my books
Monkey
called?
One.
Well, Monkey One. Yes. I have a number of them. There's one called Master of Hounds. They're all urban fantasy except for my Brace Cordova series. That one's more classic space adventure. Like you said before, swashbucklers in space kind of thing. All out on audio for the most part. And just I write under C. Stephen Manley. So
is your real name Manley, or is that a pen name?
No, that's my real name is Chuck Stephen Manley.
You lucked out so hard. That's amazing.
Well, my son's actually got it better because his name is Jacob, and we call him Jake. And I told him he's got to get a private investigator's license, even if he never uses it, just because he's Jake Manley.
Jake Manley, P.I. Yes. What a pulp hero right there.
He rolls his eyes at me a lot. It's just how things happen around here.
You don't understand. It's amazing. But I did have a selfish question that I wanted to ask.
All right. Anything for you, Kalene. Anything.
Oh, thank you. My daughter really wants to get into graphic novel, comic book creation.
Don't do it.
I know how to help her with, like a manuscript, version of comic books and graphic novels. And I've gone through a few to try and see how I can, as far as the process of getting one written. What would you say would be like the top 3 things to get 3 things to get started in, delving into this comic book graphic novel world as a creator?
One, if she's doing the art, so I don't do the art, I'm just a writer here. But if she's doing the art herself, it's going to take, a lot of hours to be able to get to the point where she can draw.
I told her it's going to be a few year situation.
It's really a ton of work. Draw figures just like to the point where they like look good and like anatomically correct and whatever every single time without even try. Like that's the thing, because you got to do that full page. You probably have like 6 to 10 different figures drawn on that on every single page. And if you have one that like its arm like is like going like this and looks like it's like why did that person have their arm out of their socket? That will be the only thing the person will remember from the comic, right? So you don't want that. So it's very important to just like do that, and that's kind of the first step. And then the second step is to start thinking about the sequence of things, because you get 4 or 5 different panels on a page, and the eye has to go. I guess I'm backwards. Okay, so here, then here, then here, then here, and you have to flow like that as a story, and it has to kind of naturally move from one spot to the next without making the person like realize like the pacing.
Try to figure out
on
where
that.
they're supposed to go next.
Yeah.
So when you're
those are the 2 most important things.
When you're writing a comic, how do you script it? Do you say like panel 1? And then describe the scene and what everybody's saying, and then how's that?
Yep, that's exactly what I do.
That's the format?
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
I do that. Some people, so it depends. I mean, some people actually are like, here's how you're going to lay out the panels and what they look like. Sometimes they even draw that layout for the artist or whatever. If you're an artist, you do it all yourself, so it doesn't matter. But I leave the layout and the way the panels are constructed up to the artist. And then I work with people who are professional artists. They're going to visually do things better than I visually do it, as long as they like communicate that kind of idea of what the story is at those points. It tends to work out. And so for this current one, Overmind, I've got a gal. She's been working in comics since the 1980s. So she's been, and she's kind of a heavy hitter out of there, and she's doing it anonymously to protect her livelihood. But she's a big time like experienced graphic artist, and that's kind of the difficult part, and where people kind of jump into this, like, there's a lot of authors who want to like make comics for their books or whatever.
I've been very real with her. I'm like, sweets, it's not something that you can just make a little 8.5 by 11 thing on with your crayons and throw it up there.
Yeah, that's the deal. You'll find some artists sometimes, and even if they're decent artists or whatever, if they've never done a comic book before, and like they don't know what they're in for the most part. And so I've before I kind of got to a spot where like at this point it's kind of different, because everybody sees every one of my campaigns makes $15,000-$20,000, and they're like, oh, money, okay. They like that. That
changes everyone's
really
perspective.
It really does.
So quickly.
But before that, like, I mean, I've had probably 10 plus comics where like we were working on it, they get 6-8 pages done, and then like they abandon it. And the tough part about that is like you get 6-8 pages done on my 60-page story, I can't just switch to another artist, because like the whole look changes. Exactly. So I have to completely abandon that. And then sometimes I abandon the story because it's like, well, now I don't even want to do this story. But there's a lot of that goes on. It's really hard to like find artists who are consistent to work for. Yeah. And it's an interesting game. Sometimes they don't even realize it. I've had one artist who did a book with me who, like, beautiful book, sold very well. And his expectations were like, that it was going to sell double or triple, like financially. And it's like, well, that's not what happened. But if we did another one, people liked this one, so you'd probably make more money on that one. And a lot of people just aren't committed towards the long haul, especially like, they don't realize how much work it is, I guess.
Yeah. And I think, comics are a very distinct art form on their own.
Yes.
Like you were saying before, it's a very specific skill set that you need to have to do the art for one of the. I know some comic book artists, and we've had conversations about this. And I think that a lot of people, just like people who are writing prose novels coming into KDP and whatnot, a lot of times all they see is that they're going to back a dump truck full of money up to my door as soon as I do this kind of thing. and it's kind of hard sometimes to catch the ones who aren't going to stick with it. So working with an artist, that's got to be frustrating as hell.
Oh yeah. I've gotten just the thing you get from experience is I've gotten better just at identifying who's going to work well with me too. Like so
Right.
things like that is makes things a lot easier now. Like almost everybody I've been working with lately is like really on the same page, just like even like aesthetically. I'm really into like the old pulps, like both from, in prose and science fiction and in comics. So it's like, I kind of have like a, retro look to everything I do. Overmind's very much
Right.
like a retro 50s Flash
Yeah, I
Gordon
got
kind of thing.
right. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I got kind of a Buck Rogers vibe from it when
That's
I
the
was
deal.
looking at. Yeah.
And our last one was kind of like a retro Conan the Barbarian kind of thing. So it's
Nice.
that's kind of the vibe of where I'm at this point. And so the people who are artists now are kind of gravitating towards me who are into that same sort of thing. So it really helps to be on the same page aesthetically with what the story is going to be like overall, and personality wise, all that's good stuff.
So digging into the writer side of that, taking a normal manuscript, because you've written novels as well. If you were to take a novel and then begin the process of turning it into a comic or a graphic novel,
I've done it before, Kalene.
Well, then there you go. What then is your first step for converting that novel? Because I'm basically telling her, write the story and we'll go from there. And I know that's probably not.
I honestly wouldn't write it as a novel first, because comics being a visual medium lends itself towards a lot of just flashy action everywhere, which you can put into novels, but there's a lot of talky scenes in novels. You don't realize how much there are. And actually the dialogue is what makes novels pace faster than actual action scenes, because that's a lot of description. So the pacing ends like speed ends up in dialogue in novels. If you overdo dialogue in comics, it slows down the pacing and ruins the comic. So it's quite the opposite. So I would actually come up with a story with and kind of outline it, and kind of try to break it down for art pages sequence wise, rather than try to write a novel then adapt it later. I adapted. So the one I adapted was Richard Fox's The Ember War, and we made a graphic novel of that. And we broke down his 400-page novel into 120 comic pages, and I had to read it. I had to read that book like 5 times, like just to the first time I read it, second time I really know it. Then I have to get through the structure of it. I was putting pasty notes in my Ember War copy everywhere, and the amount of work that I had to do for that is probably 10x the amount I have to do for one of my own graphic novels I'm doing that's intentionally as a graphic novel from scratch, because I had to get it right. Yeah. It
sounds like with dialogue doing the opposite effect in a comic, the things that the characters say have to be like, every single one of them is a choice piece
snappy
of dialogue. It needs to be
Right.
doing something like
No
kind of
fat.
like the 50-word shorts that we just did. Every single one of those have to be, every word needs to mean something. They can't just be like, well, let's see. No, don't do that.
Correct. And redundant words are even worse. I'm actually going to edit. So I caught one on the first page of Overmind here. Let me see. Let me see if I can pull it up. I'll actually show you guys.
Always deleting redundancies. I get to a point halfway through a manuscript, and I'll just highlight it redundant.
I was reading it again the other day, and I'm going to fix it. So I shared my screen here. And this is our first one. So I started, why is it the simple missions never go as planned? My name is Ayla Rin, special agent for Taylor Prime. And so, by the way, you always want to name the character on the first page. And this is something Marvel Comics always did. Every issue of Avengers, the first page would be like, hello, Captain America. How are you? I'm doing great, Iron Man. Normal people do not talk like that ever.
Right.
But they do it. See, because you want to associate the name with the visual, like that way you don't get lost. It's important to do that on the first page, or first couple of pages at least. The Imperium sends me to do the dirty work the fleet can't handle. George, my handle, told me this would be an easy information retrieval mission. Well, I was reading this. Look at this. Why is it simple missions? Information retrieval mission. I started reading this and I'm like, oh man, I said mission twice on the same page. And,
what about handle and handler?
Handle and handler's okay.
You think
because
that's
it's two
okay?
different words? Yeah. we're reading it out loud, so it sounds kind of weirder, but they visually feel like different words. So
I like that art, man. That's good.
Yeah, thank you. How the lettering visually feels and how the words visually look on here are almost as important. I'll actually adjust sentences and things like that if the word balloon doesn't look doesn't look right. Yeah, so it's like, so you've got this. This looks like a very nice sentence here because look at how symmetrical it looks. If it started looking weird, I might change, like, say if like corporate office made it look funky, I might just ditch corporate and just put office there just so it looks, or say the opposite. If I just had office here, there'd be a lot of white space right here. So I might put in corporate office just to make that white space not there. Like there's a lot of little tricks like that in comics just to make it look cool. And that's how I do things. But I'm going to edit that page so that mission is not said twice because that's horrific.
I do have to say, I've been reading a lot of Webtoon to try and get my head around for her, this whole process. And one of the things I found that bugs me the most is how their bubbles look, and if the bubbles, like, I can't tell who's who.
Oh yeah, sometimes that's the case on Webtoon, especially. They don't really even put the pointers on there on Webtoon half the time.
They're just a random bubble, and sometimes like the bubbles will cross. So you see this tiny little line that goes behind one bubble that connects to another one, so you have that back and forth.
Oh, never do that.
But I'm like, I don't know who started the conversation. Yeah, that bugs me. So that's really good to hear that that's one of your anal.
That's part of the art design. So like again, I guess I'll get into this. Where was my page? What did I do? Did I have this up?
Oh, and Drake Tungsten, he really, really loves that lettering.
Thanks, Drake Tungsten. So one thing, like, you'll want to make sure that when the artist draws things, so like you see all the dialogue here, and see in this panel how they're like talking, like the reason it's laid out why she's here and she's taller, and why he's here and she's shorter, is because the dialogue goes like an S. So I don't know if my cursor can be seen on the screen, but it starts off here, and then you go here, and then you're kind of squiggling down the page, squiggling this way, and it should get a little lower every time so that it's kind of like it flows downward and it flows in that direction.
The eye to the next bubble, kind of. Yeah.
That's the deal. And so you got to have the artist make sure they layer. So obviously she's going to talk first because she's much higher. And then it goes down to here, so that way it layers the way the direction of the art goes, the direction of it goes. Also, it's important to make sure that's like that for the pacing of the dialogue. Also, so yeah,
Very cool.
There's a lot to think about. Yeah.
Those are subtle visual cues that just make it easier on the eye to know where to go next.
Correct.
Even like if your reader has to work to figure out where to go next, they're going to stop reading.
Right.
That's really tough in comics, and Webtoon's really bad about that. I 100% agree. Now, Webtoon, you want to think about things. If you were going to format it for Webtoon, I'd almost do that first, because Webtoon doesn't really break it down into panels like this on a page. You'll see one panel. It's like for a phone, so it'll be like you'll just have this, right, and that's it. And then she'll not actually be on the page, and then the next page down it'll be this.
It's a completely different. And I've seen a couple of that they're trying to take, the actual page comic and just put it in to the Webtoon thing. And about partway through doing that, like they're like, I hope everyone likes the new update. I've been trying to, rework everything to work with the Webtoon, and
like this page, the first page especially wouldn't work on Webtoon, because look, you've got this going kind of like diagonally. Then I'd have to cut this out, and then it doesn't quite work right there. It'd just be very funky. Mm-hmm.
You would have to you just take that first part, and then you'd have this big white space, right? And you'd have some kind of like these laser bits coming that are going to connect to her path, and then it goes down. It's like it's a completely different. Trailing eye of. So
you kind of want to if you're doing Webtoon, you kind of just want to stick to more traditional panels like this. See how they're very much split apart, and that way it's easier to read. And that's and that way you can cut it and paste one of those for Webtoon.
I see that a lot when I was reading in Comixology. It would do that frame thing.
Yes. which I've done
very
before too. Yeah, Comixology is fun, but whew, so that's the stuff to think about in comics for the most part. There you go.
What is the distribution? How do you, like, once you're done and you've got the product, where do you send? Is it just Amazon, or what do you do?
No. So what I do is I've got a thing called Backer Kit, and what happens is a Backer Kit is a sort of like tool that like is like, okay, so here's all your backers, here's what they backed, and they all confirm it, and then they confirm their addresses there in case they change their addresses or something. So that's really nice too. It breaks it down into like package types. So if, like, say I've got like people who bought the book and the novel, or the comic and the novel, or people who bought, the variant cover of the comic and the novel. It'll break it all down so I can do them one package group at a time. And then it also distributes digital stuff for you. So I just upload my files and I say, okay, these people, these groups who backed at these tiers get the digital comic or novel or whatever. And then it sends them a download link. So it's all done on that level. And then I hire a printer and I ship them all to my house, and then I package and ship all the stuff out myself. So
okay, but what about after that? Do you put the graphic novel, like once all your backers have been taken care of and all that, do you just throw it up on Amazon and sell it there? Or?
I have in the past, and I'm backing away from that for a couple of reasons. One, I think that Amazon, again, just like is not allowing that discoverability that you used to have, so it's kind of not that useful. Number two, Amazon ships comic books, like in their books, absolutely horribly. They just throw them in like some bubble wrap and just like kind of toss them aside, it seems like.
I've had a box that was 4 times bigger than the book, and it's just floating around in there.
And there's nothing in it.
Nothing. And I'm just like, well, no wonder half of it's bent up.
Yeah. Now, while book readers don't care as much about that, comic readers really care if their book gets dinged up. Yeah. So I don't like that. And then number 3, like, since Amazon takes like 30%, unless they are driving me a lot of traffic, that's a killer compared, like Kickstarter only takes 10%. So, after printing and all that ends up me making maybe $1 or $2 per comic book. It's been terrible. So I'm probably not going to do that anymore. And then fourth, like, comics readers like collectability. So if I have something always readily available that's like evergreen print on demand or whatever, like, it doesn't work very well. So what I'm going to do now lowers the value. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to put the comic up, but I will put the novel up on Amazon. So
okay, that makes sense.
There you go. And then that's also your cross. Y'all did on live did a show about that, or did we? I don't remember. Anyway, cross platforming, and no, we did with Walt. That was right. Anyway, and reaching more of your audience by, you have the novel and you have the graphic novel, then you have the exclusivity of that graphic novel. But if you really want to hear and dig into the story, you can go get the novel over on Amazon, reach those people. So
I did it differently. I didn't actually make a novel of the story of the comic. I took the same character and I made a different story that I felt was better for novel type of things. So that way you get more of the world and the character, but it also incentivizes both people, because I think if you bought a comic or you bought a novel and it was the same story, I think like readers wouldn't want that as much. That would feel a little redundant. Like Star Wars does that. Like you got the Star Wars, like, Star Wars, The Force Awakens, the novel, and it's like, okay, well, why are people going to read? I mean, there's diehard people for Star Wars, but like,
sure,
why would they read that when they go see the movie?
Right.
But the Star Wars novels that are different stories end up selling pretty well because that's interesting, and people look for that. So that's what I was trying to do with this, kind of create that cross media sort of I guess franchise with it. And then hopefully what's going to happen is when these people read either the book or the comic, or if they read both, they'll like it, and then they'll check out books and comics all the way around across my line. That's kind of that's the fingers crossed.
Well, there's definitely going to be those readers out there that are going to cross the Venn diagram. They're going to be.
I think so. They exist.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jon, and basically just giving us all the insights and all the deets on what to do, what not to do. Chuck, thank you for filling in for Lauren. And
No problem. I'm
coming
not
and
as
hanging out
easy on
with
the
me.
eyes as she is, but I'm happy to be here.
And everyone out there in the live audience, thank you for being here. Job of the Creator, Monkey One, Leo Vaccaro, Drake Tungsten, everyone else. Who else is out there? Arkansas, Einbrecht?
Einbrecht. That's right.
Einbrecht. Oh, I got it right the first time. Yes, pat me on the back. Kit, thank y'all for coming and hanging out with us. Don't forget to click the little bell, hit the subscribe button. I believe the guys will be back on Monday for some.
That is the plan.
To get some stuff going on. They are going to be changing times soon. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And we will be back. What was it? On the 24th. We have coming on, I forget the name, forgive me, from the Babylon Bee. So
That's cool.
Yeah, that'll be all Lauren. She's out there doing the stuff, getting the peeps. So yeah, we'll have Babylon. I believe it was Babylon Bee coming on to do what we do. All right, and with that, be sure to check us out next time. We're going to talk about more reading, writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Mediums, The Writer's Journey. See you guys.
Later.